family. You are here once again with me, Sophia, and Yvette Tunie Mangrum. We are happy to have you with us at Soul Sessions. I think episode 4. I don't know. I'm going to stop counting, I guess.
I guess.
Episode 4. And Tunie came up with a question while reading this week. And we're going to start off with that and we'll go from there. And again, post your comments or questions under the videos because we would love to have your input and be able to talk about those things as well. All right, Tunie, so tell me what your question is for me today.
It was a passage in your book
Okay.
where you personally felt a little uneasy because you were teaching
Mhm.
and you found one of the people that were in the audience got up and kind of stormed out like, oh no, what kind of teaching is this? And it affected you. You
Yeah.
felt bad, like, what did I do wrong? Because
Mhm.
we're taught not to offend, but sometimes it's okay to offend because you want to offend those bad spirits.
Yeah.
It's whoever's not supposed to be here, remove yourself.
Hmm.
Okay. So, what I found in the book, what came to me after that is that was good that bad energy was
Yeah.
removed because who it was for, you didn't want it to disturb them. Like,
Yeah.
should I get up and leave? She left. Is this bad
Hmm.
or no? I
Hmm.
like what she's saying, but
Hmm.
should I not?
Yeah.
And then another very important part is don't run after it.
Right.
Always wanting to run after it. What did I do? How can I change this? I'm so sorry. And it no,
Hmm.
it was you guys were not supposed to connect on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, of course, we don't want to be rude, disrespectful. We're not talking about that. I'm talking about offending a bad spirit, a bad energy that it removes itself, that the
Hmm.
creator removes for you.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
So,
So what you're referring to, just to clarify for our listeners, there's a passage in Soul Walk, get the book Before, During, and Afterlife. There's a part in there where I'm discussing utilizing sage to clear negative energy from a space, right? And I kind of go into explaining what that means. But in the book, I talk about how people view things differently. And a lot of times our beliefs around things like clearing energy or channeling or baptism, whatever you want to talk about, we may get upset about these things, but sometimes it's just miseducation around understanding what they mean. So I was really explaining that while leading a class, it was an energy class where I was helping people learn how to clear their chakra, utilize the crystals and the sage to clear energy from their own aura and from their space. And I noticed there was probably maybe 8 to 10 people in this class of women sitting in a row. And I noticed that when I started to have them open their little bags and take the items out, because I had provided crystals and sage and different things, that these two women in the kind of sitting in the back, their eyes kind of got big. They whispered something between each other. They scooted the sage away. It was clear to me in front, like, oh, okay, maybe these are religious people. These are two religious women. And I assume Christianity. I could feel that, which is fine. So I went on to explain the loving intention of what you're doing and how to do it. And we had kind of a short break before we came together and they left. But I could feel the way they were looking at me while they were still there and talking. Oh, this is evil, that the eyes being cut at me. So anyway, I realized nothing else was being heard by them, and I shifted my attention to, like you said, the people that were there to receive. And as we all cleared the space, I directed everyone in the class to contemplate their loving intentions. What is it that I want? Clear anything unwanted out of my aura, or whatever you're wanting. And so right after that lesson, these women left. Okay, we had taken a short break when they left. And a few days later, I'm asking Spirit, okay, how can because my heart is to help people understand what is from God, not from what they were indoctrinated with. And I understood from being a Christian that, sage clearing and the smoke and all of this incense is, used in voodoo, satanic worship, all these kinds of things. And I don't deny that they are, but that is not all that they're used for, and I can utilize something natural from the earth, the indigenous populations that know how to heal just as well as any other healer, and a lot of times we carry the negativity of others around with us and not realizing why today do I feel so heavy, and not even correlating it with maybe someone you just spoke with at work, or someone that you were just having a conversation with, or even people you're around at the store waiting in line. You never know when you're going to come across something negative and it just kind of hangs around you. So it is good to have practices like this. So you're not just always feeling like you got to go take a pill, go to the doctor and saying, I'm depressed, I'm anxious. Sometimes there is energy clearing that you could do that releases some of that from you. And so I'm explaining these things, and lo and behold, the women left. And for me, initially, like you said, I felt like, oh, how could I do that different so people actually hear what I'm wanting them to hear? Not everybody is open to that, and my spirit really came through kind of audibly that when I intended to clear negative energy from that room, negative energy left.
We don't
You
even
know?
trust our own power. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
We doubt our own power. You asked it to leave. It obeyed your command.
Yes, and I'm
And
not
then you said,
correlating it.
wait a minute. Oh no, what did I do wrong? No,
Yes,
you
yes.
did everything
Hmm.
right.
Hmm. Exactly, exactly. And I say that to say I'm so glad you brought that up, because sometimes we don't recognize when our prayer got answered. We might be praying for a happier life or abundance, and then the partner we with leaves us. And we go, oh, we're not correlating, oh, this is part of my answer. We go
Right.
chasing that partner, saying, no, let's work on it, come back. And if the partner wants to leave, let them go. I think that's even biblical, is coming from a different
Take the
viewpoint.
dust off your boots as a testimony against them. Yes,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
receive you. Yeah.
Yeah, so being able to learn things, see yourself again from a higher perspective is very important when you're walking holistically. Because if you only view yourself as physical, you're going to have a lot of confusion and a lot of trouble. And what I mean by that is you were spirit first, your
Yes.
soul first. You came
Yes.
into a body, and
Right.
without connecting to that guidance, you can do it, but it's going to be very difficult. You're going to find yourself very confused and maybe anxious, maybe depressed. All these things as a therapist, I'm seeing. Even when I first started doing my internship years ago, I asked my supervisor, is anxiety and depression in the water? Like I didn't hear of it so much growing up. People had it. Now I can look and see back, oh, that's what was going on.
Yeah.
But even things like cancer, things that manifest more physically, these are all from not managing our mental state, not regulating our emotion, not nurturing the spirit, and I'm not just talking about religion. Again, I always want to separate that. I notice that whenever I'm talking with people, about nurturing their spirit, whether in therapy or just with people in classes or just as friends, people typically will go, well, I haven't been to church in a while, or I need to start reading my Bible again. And I have to say, no, 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 no. I'm not talking about your religion. I'm talking about you and your connection with your inner guidance, with your God in there, where you came from. And that's where we've been programmed to only view our relationship with the creator through religion.
And
And
that's the worst place to get it.
that's not what the man we're even calling Jesus taught at all. He said the kingdom of God is in you. And
And
we,
when I first had that revelation,
mhm,
I was even scared of my own self. When I first said, like, I worship myself, the God in me.
mhm.
Even my own self was kind of like, what? When I first started, and then I
Yeah,
kept
yeah.
saying it more and more, and it got more and more comfortable to the point where I was like, I don't care who thinks what. I do know I can't say that to everybody because
Hmm.
I don't want to get strung up on a tree. Like she's a
Hmm.
witch, stoner. You know what I'm saying? So, but in stuff like this or a one-on-one conversation, yes. But
Yeah.
I know not to say that to everybody because they don't have the same revelation that I have
Hmm.
and understanding
Yeah.
or desire to want something different. Some people want religion
Yeah. Exactly. And
and
we
it don't,
talked
and
about,
it's their sacred cow and don't mess with it or I'm gonna get you.
and you shouldn't. You
Yeah, so I
shouldn't.
don't, so then that's when I say I'm not for that person.
Right.
No,
Right.
I'm not for everyone and everybody
Right.
isn't for me. So this, we're not for each other.
And you learn
That's
that in
okay.
business, right? You learn that in business. Um, as a therapist, I always ask when people come to start therapy after we have our orientation, I do assessment. I say, I feel, I typically feel confident of what, they're bringing me, what their concerns are. But I ask them, are you comfortable working with me? I'm okay if you're not. Because I know I'm not for everybody. My personality is a little big,
No,
so
perfect
um,
for me
yes.
since
So,
grade
but
school.
I ask, and sometimes, it works out. But I've had clients, 6, 8 sessions in, might say, "Hey, I decided to put a hold," and I'm never offended. I'll
Good.
even find someone and help you refer them. So that does happen time to time. We have to stop taking everything so personally. And like
Okay.
I said, if we learn to view ourselves from this higher perspective, like I'm talking about, um, you won't be so offended and take things so
Right.
personally when people decide to move on. We
Okay.
do that because we're insecure, we lack self-love, we lack self-esteem. And here's another thing that's proving to me that I'm not good enough, that I'm not worthy, that I'm a sinner.
Mm,
When really all it is, if we view it that way, that's what it's going to be because
yes.
we're the operant power. But if
Yes.
we can change the way we think about that, that I've been praying for change, that I've asked the creator to guide me, and stop looking for the creator to answer you in some certain way and just be open to how it answers, it may be that you lose a job. It may
Okay.
be that you get fired you
Woo.
know?
Okay.
And so you have to kind of recognize how close those things are walking together. Well, shoot, I've been praying for change. I've been working on my prayer life, my meditation. I've been going out in nature. I've been working out. Then I got fired. God, I've been doing everything right. Why would I get fired? And then we block the path that we were being guided down because now we're anxious and scared, and all of these things. So it's important to really recognize yourself from that higher place that when you're asking for things, you are heard and not feel like it has to come in a certain package. You go scratch off a lottery ticket and you win 3 million, $5 million, that's how you want it answered, but that's just maybe not the way the creator designed it or that you had designed it. Because again, in my belief, you put your blueprint together before you come here. And whatever you're going through, you can handle, and there is a solution. But when you start questioning and doubting and getting anxious and angry and all of these things, you're hindering your path. Not it can still happen, but you're hindering your path. Questions?
Uh, well, that was a lot. Don't take
Mhm.
things, what you just said, don't take things so personal,
Yeah.
and don't get offended. That's actually a sign of insecurity.
Hmm.
And I had to say yes because I recognize that I'm overly sensitive
Yeah.
and emotional. But I
Hmm.
love the fact that you've been teaching it's okay to be emotional. That
Yeah.
that's a human thing. And I've
Hmm.
heard that from other people too. It's
Hmm.
mostly, sorry, men. I'm gonna say it. Men who label women as, oh, you're emotional. Okay, we were designed to be emotional. So
Yeah.
I'm acting in what I'm supposed to be.
Hmm.
Or is it that I'm really not so emotional and it's you are being abusive in this moment?
Yeah. It's hard to
I
tell
mean, then what,
sometimes.
it's not I'm being so emotional. You are actually being a jerk. But
Uh-huh.
anyway, um, so don't take things personal.
But before you go on, you just said
Yes.
something pretty profound. So in couples, a lot of
Yes.
times this happens, you're too emotional, I can't hear you. Well, you're being mean, you're being a jerk. And so what we constantly do is try to tell the other what they should be doing. We're yelling at them, trying to be, both of us is yelling and trying to be heard without listening, and
Hmm.
no one is backing down,
Yeah.
and so it just escalates. And being able to just go ahead and when you see that your partner is passionate about something and they're yelling, whatever their demeanor is, if you can remember to not be offended, to go inside
Okay.
your own mind and to work on yourself in that moment.
Okay.
Don't try to work on them.
Yes.
That's not
Actually,
the
when I
place. You should
first
never
got
try to work on your partner. You can get to a place where you can communicate
right,
how, when this happens, this is what happens in me. When you're not arguing, though, you can't do that when you're already in the
when
middle
it's
of
a
the
time of
argument.
peace, when it's a time of peace. Yeah.
And what
Okay.
most of us do, though, is when it's peaceful, we like it, so we don't want to start a conversation. So we'll be like, no, it's good, leave it alone, forget
But
it.
it never got resolved.
Yes,
It
and then
never
when
got
another
resolved. So what we
disagreement.
can do is say, hey, this is getting escalated. Let's stop. Let's revisit this. And we do have to give it a date, time, and all that, because you
Yeah,
can't
because
just
we
say,
don't come
hey,
back and revisit.
right, we're gonna,
Hmm.
tomorrow afternoon, or maybe I'll take you out to dinner, or we'll go on a walk and eat ice cream, and then we'll
Yeah.
sit in the park and we can kind of discuss this again.
Yeah.
But right now, it's going nowhere. This is not serving us. So
Hmm.
let's stop.
Yeah. And that doesn't happen
Yeah,
because even when somebody tries to take the reins to do that, if the other partner is too angry because we've let it go too far, it ends up just blowing up into a big explosion.
disastrous,
Yeah. Yeah.
disastrous.
If you can catch it earlier and say, let me just listen. I see my partner is upset. Let me just listen to what they're saying and get go ahead and do that. And while you're doing that, work on yourself. Do I feel
Okay.
offended? Because sometimes your partner says something and you do feel offended. And
Mm-hmm.
what's important though is to remind yourself to let go of the offense. That's
Okay.
not serving me right now.
Okay.
Let me
Okay.
just
Okay.
hear, maybe there's some truth to what they're saying you know?
Hmm.
And so even if there's not, even if they're yelling and screaming and saying a bunch of nonsense, calling you names, whatever the case may be, if you remain in control of your own emotion, still not attaching to being offended by the words that you're just yelling out of anger and don't mean anyway. And
Okay.
typically
Okay.
what they do mean is more frustration in themselves than it is with you. You know?
Wow. Okay. Okay.
Um, so if you can be quiet and try
Mm.
to compose your own emotion, work on yourself. My partner is escalated. I don't want to add to it. That doesn't benefit either of us. Let me not be offended and wait. They go fizzle out or you try to sit down and talk again. But this getting to the bottom of things while both of you are heightened anger that never works.
Okay.
It's just never works.
Yeah, I can.
So
I've shown and proved that.
yeah,
Yes.
we all have. We all have. And so whether my partner learns to emotionally regulate or not is not my concern. My concern is my emotional regulation. Okay. And even when I feel like, okay, let me try to talk about this with them and a good time never comes up, I still have to work with that within myself. I could go say, you're not a good communicator. That's not going to be helpful.
Right. Right. That's going to be
Because now you're
effective.
accusing. Um,
Right.
we don't communicate well.
Right.
We don't talk well, which is why
Okay.
most people land in therapy trying to communicate better.
Right.
We do it at work. We might do
Hmm.
it with a friend, especially at work. We know we got to work on a team. We got to talk about the client or, whatever project we're working on. But when we get home, we don't want to do that with our partner. We just want them to listen to us and be quiet. And that's not fair. So learning how to talk is a big part of it is working on yourself, not your partner.
Okay.
If you keep
I've heard
working on
that.
your partner, and this is for both partners, if both
Right.
partners are
Right.
working on themselves, even when the other one loses it, you're working on yourself, your partner is probably going to recognize, oh, she's calm. I've been kind of rattling off her. You go, oh, he's not responding, and then you go, okay, let me calm down too. So then you become a benefit for each other. You learn to harmonize.
Right.
You learn when it's good time to talk about things when it's not. And so not taking things personal and being offended and getting irritated are a big part of learning how to communicate better. And self-examination is the core of all of that. Questions?
No, I got that. I
Mhm.
actually don't have any questions because you know what? You just said all of that was confirmation. So I
Mhm.
actually don't have any
Okay. Good, good.
questions.
Well, let me
What
just
I
go
did
ahead.
one time, when I figured that out, what you said about how men and women we see things differently. One
Mhm.
time, me and my partner were getting into it, and I said, you know what? We're not going to see it the same way. I said, and I was
Yeah.
very juvenile about it. I said, I'm a girl, you're a boy. And
Mhm.
that was it. And it de-escalated and we just moved on. I was like, we're
Yeah.
not gonna, this is not
Yeah.
resolve itself because I don't walk around in the experience you're having,
Yeah.
the female experience that I'm having
Mhm.
in life.
Mhm. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You have a male experience you're having in life. So I cannot see what you're saying. I will try to understand it the best I can, or
Mhm.
even get to the point to say, I'm not going to ever understand that, but okay, that's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
And move on.
Perception. You're talking about perception.
Yes.
We all live under our own perception. We can have
Yes.
this, be at the same event, having the same seeming experience, and we're going to have two different perceptions. And I learned this when I was working in banking.
Yes.
Four robberies, different times when I was
Wow.
not me personally, but one of the tellers while I was managing got robbed four different times, okay? And
Same
each
teller?
time, yeah, bank tellers. And it was never violent. It's not like on
Okay.
TV. Matter of fact, like
And
80% of
yeah,
the time.
I worked at a bank real quick, real quick.
Yeah,
And all
yeah.
I did was pass a note.
Pass a note.
And then I
You,
saw my manager run across the room. I was like, "What's going on? What's
yeah,
going on?" We
yeah.
just got robbed. I was like,
Yeah.
and it was the guy was right next to me that
Mhm.
went down, and I was like, I didn't even see the action.
Yeah, no, you don't see anything
It
because
wasn't no
really
action.
what they've done is come in and cased it a few times. They know the
Uh,
time to come in, they've planned all that. So usually just a note and they leave.
right,
Um,
right.
but on one of those times, the guy actually showed the teller a gun in his hip. So she was really alarmed, right? And she
Uh,
came over and told me, press the alarm, whatever. What I found out though is there was a teller on both sides of her. I was at the back. I had seen the guy leave, but he was just a guy in a cap leave. He didn't.
nothing
So
stood out.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I saw a brown jacket and a dark colored hat, baseball cap. Somebody saw a blue jacket and a light colored hat. Somebody saw, I think his jacket was like a bomber jacket. There was five or six different people that saw this guy and five or six different descriptions. We all have our own, and who even knows there was one guy, he says, forget it. I don't even know if I'm talking about the same guy.
Exactly. It could have been another customer, even.
You're gonna put the wrong person in jail. So
Oh man.
everybody has their own perception of things.
Right.
And that's what we miss when we're arguing, yelling at each other. That my view is different than
Okay.
your view, and that is okay.
Yes.
Now that you saw the blue jacket and I saw the red jacket, can maybe we describe the person's face a little more? Maybe we can find solutions and look back on the camera and see what might be there. And this was a while ago before the cameras were so clear. These are
Right.
old black and white. So, but I just say that to say when we calm our emotion or balance our emotion, we can really start to hear what they're saying. Oh, I see. My wife is concerned about I think of one of the things with our younger son. He used when he was younger, like 6, 7, he liked science. And to me, it was fun for him to go to the sink, make this huge mess with slime and his little science kit. And my husband would say, clean that up. You're leaving him. He wasn't finished. He was playing. And I just kind of quietly said, that he's being creative. I'll make sure he cleans it up. And my husband, oh, okay. Like in his mind, he's making this huge mess. And I'm seeing somebody exploring their creativity. And sometimes if you don't have emotion behind it, you can hear each other. You can hear, oh, the creativity, or yeah, he's making a mess. So I'll make sure to, let's show him how to have the creative fun, but clean up after himself. Now you can resolve what both of you are feeling. But if you're yelling and screaming your view and mad at your partner for not understanding your view, you're not going to get anywhere. They won't understand it, like you said, but you can accept it and then listen to each other and then find some common ground that you can walk on.
With that previous story, I found a common ground because you said a couple of people said the jacket was this color, that color, this color. I said you guys all agreed that he did have a jacket on.
There you go.
So let's horn in on that.
Yeah.
It was a jacket. You guys all said he had a baseball.
And a dark color jacket.
Right. Let's horn in on that. So let's celebrate what we do.
Yes.
Same as.
Sort of like house hunters. And I'll even use this example when I'm working with couples sometimes. You ever watch House Hunters? They look at the three.
I haven't.
Okay. They look at the three houses and then they have to discuss which house they want, to purchase towards the end, right? And so if it's real or not, I don't know. But anyway, the wife wants a pool, the husband does not, or vice versa. This is close to my work. No, that's an hour from my work. So they have to kind of negotiate. Well, I've always wanted a big front yard. Well, I don't want any yard because I don't want to take care of it. So both partners have these dreams about their house, right? And they have to sit down to include what they could afford, and all of that stuff. And they have a conversation and they just hash out those things. Well, I want a pool for me and the kids in the summertime. You're at work, I'll hire somebody to take care of it, so you have to be able to talk about what you view as different and be able to come together. And that's why I think we do this, is to learn to harmonize.
Right.
When you're in a choir or chorus, you don't ask the alto to sing soprano. You let them practice and rehearse so that they can harmonize. And if we keep trying to force the soprano into alto or vice versa, it won't work. Everybody's off key, out of tune, and you don't get nice music. But when you listen to each other, you're learning to harmonize, and that's a big part of communication. Stop trying to force your view. Don't be offended when your partner doesn't have the same view. Listen to it and see how y'all can move forward together.
Right. I also found this out a few years ago, just within myself. Sometimes it's okay. And actually, more times than not, I should give up my rights. I have the right to do this, that, or the other thing. I have that human right.
Yeah.
Give it up some time for the other person.
Yeah.
A lot of times, just give up your rights. Let them have it. You know what I'm saying? Just for the sake of harmony.
Yeah. Yeah. If it's not a big deal, why argue over it?
Exactly. Like they say, pick your battle. You don't want a battle. So I don't know if this is a good analogy, but pick your battle.
Yeah. Yeah.
I refuse to argue and fight. And so I give up my right. You can have it. Yeah. We'll do it that way. If you want a pool, okay, you're right. I'm not here, and it's you and the children in the summertime, and you guys want the pool. So yeah, I could stomp around and well, I don't want to.
Or put my foot down. No, I'm the man. Right. No pool.
Exactly.
And then now there's a discouragement there, because even if you decide together no pool, at least you did that together.
Yes.
But now you're saying your partner's view is not important.
Right.
And that conveys a whole different problem in the situation. At least allow them to have a voice. Even if who's ever decide you kind of side with, that's fine, but at least hear each other's voice. Communicate to your partner that their view is important to you, whether you agree or not. Just because it's your partner, their view is also important to you, that they're not an idiot. Sometimes we treat our partners like they're an idiot. Like, well, why are you, we have this thing.
Hello?
This look right here.
Hold on. Okay, so I just had a moment. What we were just discussing, I had to put that instantaneously in effect. Because I know that I was right. even the person told me I was right, but what are you going to do about that now?
Mm.
Huh?
Yeah, those looks. See that look?
I'm kind of very confused. Why is that my responsibility? So because I've done it before in the past several times, now I've made that my responsibility. See, that's
Yeah,
what
in
I'm
their
saying.
eyes. Yeah, yeah.
You've kind of got to watch being helpful,
Mm-hmm.
because then they expect
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. And this is not just couple relationships, family,
Right,
interpersonal
right,
relationships, even
right.
work relationships. So, yeah, being able first, right and wrong doesn't matter. When we're especially in the intimate relationship, right? So when we start saying, I'm right, I'm right, or you're wrong, all escalate, escalate, escalate. It's not going to benefit. You're not going to get anywhere. You have to start thinking, even in this dual relationship, that we are part of the same web, that you are me and I am you. And both of us become better when we work for the wholeness of both of us. So it's not just me trying to be right and you be quiet and move, why? And even with our kids, as they get older, you're not listening. So whatever happens, happens. We want to tell them to listen, listen, listen. And then when they start talking, it's like we shut down their point of view because they're kids. And I'm talking about
Mm-hmm.
older, maybe 18, 19, 20s, even adult kids. So being able to not just be focused on who's right and who's wrong, um, that might be clear, that might not be clear, because again, we have perception. So what may be really, really right for you, I don't care for at all. I just don't see it that way.
Right,
So again, it goes back to not being offended and not trying to force our way. It's more about respecting the value of what we're building and not just me against you, or see it my way and follow me. Sometimes it might be, yeah, that's the best way. Let's do it that way, and you just get on board and support. But sometimes it's not that clear. You have to be able to talk through things. So even
right,
when someone catches you unexpectedly, if you're working on your own connection, your meditation, your guidance all the time, and someone comes up with something unexpectedly, you're a little bit more prepared. Like, whoa, that caught me off guard. But
right.
you can breathe for a second and say, let me bring down my offense. They're not, this person is not aiming to frustrate me. I'm choosing frustration because I don't want to deal with this.
Okay,
So
okay.
the person's not aiming to frustrate me. They're aiming to get this thing done, and I typically do it, but I'm not able to do it today. So, hopefully you can do it.
My thing was, I didn't want, I have the right to not want
Yeah.
to.
Yeah.
I have the
Absolutely.
resources. Yes, I acknowledge. Yeah, I have done that. I didn't even realize that I have consistently been doing this for that person.
Yeah.
It just became a norm, a second nature.
Mhm.
But for whatever reason, I'm putting the brakes on that
Yeah.
because I
You don't
want
care to
to.
do it anymore. Nothing wrong with that. Now that's up to them. Again, don't mind how they should take that.
And they
Because
took it
sometimes
quite
we'll
harsh.
deliver the information. Yeah, I'm not doing it anymore. And they get upset and we want to check them on being upset. Just say,
Right.
you're upset, but I'm not doing it. So they got to go deal with being upset.
Yeah.
And if they want to talk about you and escalate, that's their energy.
Okay.
So you're just minding your energy. And again, going back to religion, a lot of these things get implemented in us, in my view, through religion, that women should do this and men should do this and kids should do that. And some of it is true, some of it is helpful and beneficial, and some of it does not work in your family, in your family dynamic. So you have to be okay with kind of bumping things up against the wall and figuring it out. Because you cannot go into a marriage with, let's say, the topic of leadership. The man's supposed to lead the home, right? And maybe the two don't have an understanding, they or have a different understanding of what leadership means. Because a lot of times couples will sit down and do this premarital counseling and things like that. And what does leadership, if they bring that up, what is your idea of how your family should work? We talk about chores, all that kind of stuff, which is useful because you have a certain perception in your mind going into that relationship of what marriage is, and your partner has a whole different one. So you'll have people come together. Well, leadership means that, some men will say that I should be taking care of my family financially, that they should feel protected, that, we don't fall behind in bill. And it usually centers around the finances, you know,
Right.
and women should nurture the home and take care of the children and do everything else. And so you go into that with that mindset, and maybe he does work hard and bring home the money, but she's, having kids and going shopping and keeping the home up and working too, and everything at school, she's handling, she's organizing the vacations. And a lot of times it becomes imbalanced, and women will be like, he's leading, what? Or he's not even bringing in the finances, and she's still doing all it. So or it could be imbalanced. I've seen it the other way, where the guy is doing a whole lot of things, and the woman said, well, I just stay home with the kids. And maybe she's not even doing the greatest job of that. The kids aren't even cleaned and, eating
Right.
well and things like that. So,
Right.
there becomes this imbalance. So it's really important to talk about those things. What does a family look like to you? Because it might look very different to the other person. And so many people jump in relationships without discussing those things, and then they start having to deal with them in the relationship. And I say religion plays a part in that, because we learn a lot of those roles there. You have where some women just speak up about anything, and their husband's like, she don't, like almost like she's a child.
Right. You're the woman. You don't have
Yeah.
a voice. You don't have a mind. You don't have
Yeah.
anything. And if you do, you're rebellious. You're out of
Yeah.
order.
You're
You're a
out of
Jezebel.
pocket and all these different things. And then, especially if you don't know how to express yourself as a young woman, I never learned that. Now I'm loud and,
Yeah.
meet people and all that, but I didn't know how to express deep emotion.
Right.
I didn't know how to say when I was hurt, or when someone insulted me, or anything like that. I didn't know how to do that. And I didn't know that I didn't know how to do that. It comes with maturing, and which a lot of us just don't have at that point. So being able to start thinking about how you're thinking, self-examining, how am I thinking about things? How am I thinking about my partner? How am I thinking about work? If you're not unhappy at work and there's this agonizing boss, which I've had a few of those situations, and you start thinking about how you think about that person. If there's a lot of negativity going on in that mental chatter, that's going to support more negativity with that person. If there's a lot of negativity about my spouse in my mind, that's going to reflect in the screen, outside me. So whenever they have a struggle, or they're vulnerable, or they're going through something hard, we don't view it right, because we have all this negativity that we've never settled. So it's important to really work on yourself and recognize that if you want change to take place. You have to do it. It's not going to come from the other person ever at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's unfair to put that on them.
Yeah.
Okay. And then that's why a lot of times I say I hurt my own feelings, because I'm expecting this out of them, and they're oblivious.
Yeah.
Like,
they're doing the best they can.
Kind of like what just happened to me. I'm like, I've been that for you. Oh, yeah. Well, good for me. I didn't even realize it, but it's
can't do it today. Can't do it anymore. Yeah.
I don't want to. I don't want to do it.
Yeah, good. Nothing wrong with saying that. And that's what the person has to go deal with it, however they deal with it. And we attach ourselves to outcomes and all kinds of things, and it's unnecessary. It's a leak of energy. All of this arguing and disconnection and trying to get our point across, and aggression, you're just leaking out energy, and you're feeling more and more depleted. And that's where the diagnoses start coming in. So when you're dealing with something that is extreme, start to self-examine and work on getting in a more peaceful, natural state with your God, with your creator. Ask for those things to be worked on, and believe and know that you have the ability to do so. You have it. It's built into our makeup.
Okay, I
Come
like that.
here. We come here with the same power that created us.
Hmm.
And though I wish I could say flip a switch and I can heal someone like Jesus did, like the man we call Jesus did, no, because I'm still working on how deep that programming is. But I have had times where I've thought of things and they happen.
Yes,
And
me
so I
too.
try to really shoot that energy and remember it and say, oh, so I could do it more and more. And it's not a straight line. You're going to have times where you're doing really well and you get to that mountaintop and you got to go back down. So, but each
Because
time,
then the going back down is where the lesson, where what you learned,
mhm,
now you've got to put it in effect.
into
It has to be
practice.
implemented. So yeah,
Yeah.
that does make sense. Go up and then okay, on the way down, you all these lessons you learned,
Yeah.
put them in.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you got to start putting them into practice because even me, as I started to teach people, that didn't take away my challenges. But now that I'm teaching people, whoa, that's another level. Because now it's like, oh, we just had this great class, and I go home and have a disagreement with my husband, and now I got to implement what I'm talking about. I don't
right.
want to be a
And
hypocrite.
and
Yeah.
to whom much is given, much is be
Yes.
expected.
Yes.
So for the teachers and the trainers and the this and that, yeah, we do expect more out of you. You're
Yeah.
teaching
Yeah.
us. So yeah, we expect you to know it more, and maybe that's unfair. Not really,
Mhm.
because the one they call Jesus, how are we gonna follow him if you know what I'm
You're not
saying?
doing it.
You're not Jesus, then you ain't doing it either.
No.
And so we are
And he
gonna
says,
expect
yeah,
him.
yeah, he says that those who follow him will do greater things than he did. And we don't see
Exactly.
that practiced.
No, yeah, I ain't
And
seen
when
no
people
greater.
do practice it, healers, because there
Yes,
are people that have come and done things like that, they get
yes,
debunked. They're fake, they're not real. And granted, I'm not talking about the fraudulent schemes
right,
that
right,
go on, but
right,
there are
right.
people, I write in my book about Edgar Casey and some other channels. Dr. Sabi, he was not, a channel or anything mystical. He was giving people herbal treatments that that cured their AIDS, that cured their cancer. And when they stuck to his treatment plan, they would go back to the doctor and they would get the diagnosis was no longer there because disease is an interplay of mind, body, and spirit. And we're not taking care of the three of those, our body will start to get our attention. And if we pop a pill and keep going, and we're not dealing with the mind, body, and spirit, some trauma we're suppressing, or something big that's going on underneath the surface, our body communicates through symptoms.
Yes,
And a lot of times the foods that we eat that to maintenance our body, we're not getting enough nourishment. We're not giving it the supplements and vitamins that it needs. We're eating a lot of processed foods that don't have anything in them. And so, yeah, it shows up in different ways. You don't have enough nutrients, you
right. And
know,
that causes mental illness.
it
Like when you
causes
don't
mental
have
illness, worms.
a
We deworm
right.
our animals, but we don't deworm ourselves, and those little, you eat some meat somewhere and you don't know, how it was handled. There could be parasites in there. Tastes
Mm.
delicious, but we don't know, we don't know.
Delicious.
So, but, those of us
And real
who,
quick, and the only
mhm,
reason why it tastes delicious is because we haven't detoxed ourselves.
yeah,
Once you detox yourself, it won't taste delicious. You won't be able to even stomach it.
yeah.
It tastes delicious because you're full of all these toxins and this nasty
Well,
stuff.
it's full of salt.
Right. Right.
Salt makes everything, salt and bacon make things taste good, So, and again, that's the training. It's not necessarily you doing anything bad. A lot of things we just don't know. I just didn't know, and
Yeah.
that's why I wrote the book because I was peeling back so many different layers. And I've had people come back and tell me, how did you get so many different topics in this one book? And it all kind of flows, from body nutrients, mind, body, spirit care, to religion, to ancient aliens. I got mental health. There's a lot of different topics in there because to me, they're all interlinked. It's all spiritual. It's all
Right.
to distract us. So if we're in a hurry and we got in debt, like I have, You get in debt and all you can think about is I got to go make this money. No, y'all ain't helping me. I got to get these bills paid. And even getting deeper in debt to pay bills, to
Right.
get a car and
Right.
to get a house, and now we're in $500,000 in debt and we've never earned $500,000, So all of that distracts you from being able to think clearly, from being able to eat well because you don't have time. So you're grabbing, whatever's available and quick. And then you don't have time to exercise. You're sluggish. The food impacts the way that you think. A lot of those processed foods have chemicals in them that deteriorate your thinking. Yes, you're anxious. The big arches, that's the worst thing a person can eat. It's just so many things in there.
Cringe. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
you
it makes
cringe.
me cringe. And I used to eat it, love the fries,
Look, it's drugs in it. It is.
Yes, they have
It'll keep
literally
you addicted.
chemists that put things in there because they know what will hook us and the smells and the taste that keep us coming back to where we don't even want to see a salad. A vegetable, what? There's no
Mm.
pizzazz in a salad.
Yeah.
So you have to really start to take ownership of your own mind and body and spirit. When you have ailments, I'm not saying don't go to the doctor. You need the guidance, get it. But it really does go back to how you think, how you feel, and how you're taking care of yourself. It's a big part of it, self-examining, self-examining. Good, 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 good.
Yes.
Closing comments.
I'm responsible for everything in my life.
Mm-hmm.
I have to take accountability for everything. And I knew that beforehand, but the more I grow, the more mature I get, that's meaning something even more to me now. Like
Yeah.
I have to, and I got to make sure I articulate this correctly.
Okay.
I have to be responsible for the message that the other person has about me. I know that doesn't sound right, but just that situation that just happened right now,
Mm-hmm.
when I was giving too much and now it's come back to bite me, where now they expect it and maybe you're being mean now.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
So I have to balance stuff. So that is my fault.
Mm-hmm.
I gave to where I didn't even know. I was giving that every month to you. Oh,
Yeah.
no wonder I couldn't get my feet done last week because I gave it to you.
Yeah. Yeah. And not
So
paying
in
attention. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
everything,
Mm-hmm.
there has to be balance. And I
Balance.
remember someone said that.
Yeah.
It gets to the point where the first time you say no to someone will be as if you never said yes.
Mm.
All these times I've said yes, but here it is. This one time I have to or I want to say
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
You go oblivious to that other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Or you use it against me. Well, since you've been doing it, what's changed now? You're expecting me to answer you?
Yeah.
Which you know what? In a way, you do deserve an answer. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll be kind. I don't
Yeah.
have to,
Yeah.
but I'll give you the answer. And I did. I laid it out. I said, "Did you see that I just had to do this, that, and the third? Did you
Yeah.
take?
Yeah.
Were you caring enough about me to say, she
Mm.
has been doing this and that. I'm gonna back off this time, even if I
Yeah.
have to go without."
Right. Right.
Because I
And
see
really
that
giving them that space to do that.
right.
So
Because
that's
I'm
where go
making it
ahead.
where, yes, you are using me.
Mm-hmm.
You are taking me for granted. You have gotten kind of comfortable, and then I said, the way you're asking is even really rude.
Mm.
As soon as I answer the phone, look, I've already asked this person, that person, and this person, they didn't have it, which I don't think that was true. I think that was a
Ah.
bald-faced lie. They
Mm.
just know, like, let me call her and say I tried to ask other people. Okay, well, call them and ball them out like that.
Yeah. And
Like,
see,
I have
what you
not
have to
done.
monitor, Toonie, right there is when you're like, it's not what you're saying wrong, but you want to mind your energy.
Right,
And that's where
right.
sometimes where we get off track, right? Where we're going, because I think we kind of battle with maybe I should have helped, maybe I threw it, last minute. I've always been, so we kind of battle with doing it or not while we're working through it. And so when you make a decision, well, I cannot do it this month, let it go. Don't
Yeah.
ride on the other person's emotion and their
Okay.
negativity and how
Yeah.
they're figuring. And it sounds like you tried to even suggest some other people, and they still threw that back at you. That's
No, no, no. They said it. They said
okay. Oh, I've
they
asked
called
all these
me.
people.
No,
Yeah,
they
yeah.
called me and said, before you even asked, not that I was gonna ask, that's them
Mm,
thinking that I did ask this person and that person, and they don't have it. Okay, well, did they get the tongue lashing that I'm getting?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Or did you just, if you did ask, which I don't think so, but let's just say for argument's sake, you did ask someone else,
Hmm.
did they get, oh, okay, well, thank you because you've always been there for me. Have a good day.
Right,
And then you finally get to me and you're like, look, girl. So, lesson learned.
right.
You can't overextend yourself.
You can. And that's where you do the balancing, not the other
Yeah,
person. And
yeah,
we're not offended that they're mad, we
yeah,
just let them figure that out. Even
yeah.
send out a positive energy to say, God help them figure that
Yeah,
out.
help them figure this out and
And
know that I'm not
celebrities, when
doing
they
it.
make it big, do that all the time. I've
Yeah.
heard various celebrities that get really, really big talk about their relationships. And, especially when you come from an impoverished family and now you've made a lot of money. People that live in that state of mind, and I did for a long time, don't always understand the other side of it. It looks easier when you're living in lack to some. Life looks easier when someone, you view them as rich or wealthy and you're in poverty. Life looks easier for them. When you have that perspective and you don't even know, like I didn't know I had a lack perspective, that I had a poverty mindset. To me, it was just life, so heard my parents complain about money. I'm sure their parents did, and so you come out kind of believing that money is hard to come by and that I've got
Right.
to work really, really hard. And so if
Just
I
get
feel like,
trapped.
yeah, I feel like I'm working really hard, but money is not coming, it's a mindset. And
Yes.
so when you're in that poverty mindset or that lack mindset, because it might not be money, it might be love you feel like you don't have, and companionship.
Companionship,
There's
support.
different support. Yeah. So there's different things you feel like you lack in. And as long as you believe you lack in them, you will lack in them.
Yes, because you're creating your own reality.
Yes. So when you're talking with a person that, has that mindset and you've been helping them, and then
Enabling them.
yeah, enabling them, and then you become God for them, So having enough money to help your children or your family or whoever it is can be a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Because I've even seen working in therapy where parents have had kids on drugs and they've not had a money problem. They've helped that kid. They've put him in an apartment. They've sent him to rehab to get cleaned up. They've filled the apartment with things so the kid had time to go get work, and come back 6 months later, everything's sold to the drug dealer and the kid's back on the street because they're using mom or dad as God and not building that connection with the creator themselves. I can't get off drugs. I can't do this. I need you to help me. So this is just a different mindset. And until that person learns to their own power, that they can get clean, that they can be wealthy or whatever, they can find love. You have to believe that or it will never happen. If that person feels like you're their source, they're going to
Mm.
spin around in circles until they realize you're not their source. They have the source within themselves. I have the source within me, and so it becomes kind of this push and pull where there's a passage where the man we call Jesus said, uh, I didn't come to bring peace, but a sword. Man will turn against his household. But yes, when you start walking in your truth that you have God in you and I have God in me, and I'm able to help when I want to, when I choose to, and sometimes I might say no. Some of your relatives might not take that too well, and it causes a divide. They think you don't care about them. To this day, I've learned when people pass over, I have a whole different understanding of that. When my mom passed last year, I'm in a very different place than when my dad passed back in 2008. And I
Mm.
didn't cry when my mom passed. I never even felt the urge. We were very close. We loved each other very much. I
Mhm.
talked to her about these things before she passed over. She was at peace. And there
Good.
was no there was no reason to cry. I call on her now, it's different. I
Right,
can't call
right,
her on
right.
the phone.
And the bottom line is death is a part of life.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
is that simple.
Yeah.
It is
But I
that
wasn't
simple. So it
always
hurts.
here. I
Right,
wasn't always here. And so the road, the journey, and I still have a long way to go with some things.
right,
So the journey is different for all of us. But the
right,
more we blame others or try to force others to see our way, the longer it winds, the bigger the wine. So being able to self-examine and work on yourself, work on your own emotional balance, and it doesn't depend on what someone else is doing or not doing. No matter what they're doing, you can learn and you can grow.
right. I
Beautiful.
believe that.
Any
Yes.
last words? I
No,
think
I
that
got
was supposed to
everything.
be our last
This,
word.
no, no, because this whole session has been confirmation. So
Good.
I honestly don't have any questions because you're answering them. The
Beautiful.
confirmation is answering
Hmm.
them.
Hmm. Yeah, and your spirit already knows it. So when it
I was
resonates,
just about to say that
yeah,
spiritually, I already put it
yeah,
out there,
you
and
connected.
now,
Yeah, yeah.
right, and
That's
now
why
you're
when
just
two or more come together, there I am with them because there's this dialogue and we can all rise together. Beautiful. Thank you for joining Soul Sessions today. We look forward to talking to you again in about a week. Something I do want to mention, Toonie, is Toonie will be coming to Texas to visit me next month. So we are going to do a live version for the first time. That's going to be so fun at my wellness center called the Prosperity House here in Dallas, Texas. So we look forward to having you guys join us and have an awesome day.